All right at the top of the hour.
Make it quick. Nobody got killed this
There we
time.
go.
Whoa.
So dogs in Deschutes.
Dogs in Deschutes County. I'm Rondo, 35-year resident, Bend. This is a painful subject. We all know the love that dogs can give, but we also know the danger. They are living amongst us. And unfortunately, those who are challenged in their own living situations, sometimes they're challenged to take care and contain their own dogs. And they are responsible. And it distresses me, not that I'm a hound for punishment for anybody. We're all imperfect. We all make mistakes. But when an attack happens, that trespasses into criminal, whether it's intended or not. The thing is, if you're not taking care of your dangerous animal, not considering what your dog can do to other people and other animals is criminal, in my opinion. And I would like this board to actively have a conversation about what we can do. If we have to have more supervision and drive-bys, whatever, to make sure that these dogs aren't running around, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
To see somebody attacked by a dog. And, I'm still thinking about Joe from a year and a half ago, and how, I don't want to discuss the details, how his body was found and in what condition. We know these dogs can do very
Clock
extreme
might have been
damage.
started after a couple of minutes.
Okay, I keep looking at that. Thank
All
you.
that.
All right, I'm done. I felt like a long time. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Mr. Bob Perry.
I'm Bob Perry. I'm speaking on behalf of the Redmond Patriots and its 528 members. And I better put my glasses on so I know what the heck I'm saying. Looking at Oregon, we're concerned with the growth of government workforce. Over the past 5 years, only 1,392 jobs have been added to the private sector. Contrast that small number with the 17,583 jobs added to the government sector. The growth of government jobs is 12 times the private industry. No wonder our state economy struggles. It's a classic example of the takers versus the makers. Recently, Commissioners Adair and DeBone objected to the social engineering being implemented by county health in the area of DEI. We thank Adair and DeBone both for their correct and courageous stand on this anti-merit program that focused on diversity equity, and inclusion. We strongly believe the commissioners should probe further into the health bureaucracy. Why are these bureaucrats complaining so vociferously against Adair's and DeBone's decision? Are they hiding more sinister goings on? And what was the justification for a 39% workforce expansion? The overreaction to COVID was possibly to blame. How much did county taxpayers have to pay for this bloated bureaucracy? How wisely is the money being spent? Are we creating, and this is important, an unjustified and unsustainable empire like we've done with the library system in this county? According to the Deschutes County Health Services mission statement, quote, it has a primary responsibility to help address the basic health and wellness of Deschutes County residents. Here's a suggestion that could help justify their existence and fit perfectly with the mission statement. Use their individual and collective efforts to get harmful junk food out of our schools. I'm leaving with you, and I gave it to Brenda this morning, a news article on a government proposal in Arizona that would improve children's health. This could be a worthwhile endeavor and more appropriately utilize the expanded government health bureaucracy. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And next, Ms. Doreen Tai.
Good morning, Commissioners. Doreen Tai, been here for the majority of 50 years. And I want to talk about Best Care and your only available treatment option for people who want to get clean on Medicaid, Medicare, which is where people are at when they're high. They have no funds. So take, for example, I have a loved one in my life who's a CSEC kid. That means they were child exploited. They were sexually exploited as a child. These guys come in as boyfriends. They malign the children against their parents. They run away. They are gang raped to beat them in for a week. Then they are given drugs with or without their consent to make them feel better and treated like a princess. They haven't learned, they're gang raped some more until they're ready to do their work. If you can save your kid from this, you're looking at a 2-year lifespan. Very few make it past that. You lose everything trying to save your kid. You lose fucking everything, and you come back and you get blasted by flight schools. You finally get your kid to where they want to go for treatment, and you have Best Care. They have a therapist who sits on the phone for an hour with Best Care saying this is how it's going to be when she shows up. It's not how it is. So they put her in Brooks. And Brooks, you show up, they take your car, you're not allowed to bring it, which they said she could. They take your clothes, they put you in community sweats, they strip search you bent over, make you run fingers through your hair. She sits outside for an hour crying after trying so hard. This, as you change the laws and make it criminal, and you put her in with predatory people because there's no other option. And you look down your fucking nose at people like me who've lost everything while I sit there under the farms you're giving away to flight schools who terrorize us day and night. Whether it's their drones, whether it's their planes, you've left no option for people to get help. You keep funding Best Care. The county tells you you need someone else. It's anti-competitive. There's no other option. What do? This is what you're funding. Who is blocking the county? Who at the county is blocking another competitor coming in? Because I guarantee you Best Care can't treat their patients like inmates, which is killing people. People are dying from this. You have one of the worst freaking repetitive recidivism rates here. Why? Because people can't get clean because they're treated like inmates. Some people need compassion. We have, what, 300,000 missing kids right now? How many kids need help right now? How many of these kids that can survive it are going to get that help? How many families lose everything to have someone like Best Care just rake in money every time they get an admit, whether they stay or not? This has to change. People are dying. Thank you.
Thank you for the testimony.
Thank you, Doreen.
Is there anyone else in the room today for testimony? Citizen input? Anybody online? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, consent agenda. Couple appointments, Noxious Weed Board and road districts.
So move the consent agenda approval?
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you. Action items. Item number 7, public hearing, consideration of an order approving an annexation of the Sister Camp Sherman Rural Fire Protection District.
Morning, Commissioners. Dave Doyle, County Council. You have before you order number 2025-002, which is an order approving an annexation into the Sisters Camp Sherman Rural Fire Protection District. Mr. Peckham has submitted a petition to annex property into that district. The Assessor's Office, County Clerk, and Community Development have all reviewed the petition. It's appropriate to proceed. This would be the time to open a public hearing, receive any testimony if there is any, and thereafter close the hearing and take action on the order.
So this is a public hearing on the matter, and we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone to testify on this annexation into the Sisters Camp Sherman Rural Fire Protection District? Is there anyone online? So seeing none, we will close the public hearing on this matter. Any other questions, thoughts, deliberation? I just,
Glad that these folks are seeking annexation into a fire protection district.
and the maps were provided that make it real clear on where this is. Any other, so yeah, being done, is there a motion then? Any other discussion or is there a motion?
Move approval of board order number 2025-002, approving the annexation of property on Wilt Road into the Sisters Camp Sherman Rural Fire Protection District.
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Dave, Dave, I have a question. I'm just wondering, why more people don't like join together to be, to get into the fire protection district? It seems like it would be such a good idea.
I think sometimes it's a function of financing. And so if you're buying a newer property and you're having to deal with mortgage companies and lenders, and there's typically a mandate for that, where some of the other properties might be fully owned and have no mortgage or loan and have not been part of a fire district. And yeah, I mean, that would be my assumption. It has something to do with that.
So they bought this property in 2020?
I believe that's what the paperwork showed. Yes.
Yes.
It's a
So
50-acre site.
I know, I mean, I was just thinking because of what's happening with the insurance industry, that the more people that could get into the fire district probably would help.
Absolutely. I would think so.
Okay,
It certainly would affect your premiums on your homeowners.
okay. Well, I would just hope that maybe somebody would hear that and know that it is a possibility. How long would it take? Would it take like 5 months, 6 months to get this accomplished?
Process into one of these districts,
Mhm.
much quicker than that, potentially, could probably be within 45 days.
Okay. So anybody out there that actually has this situation, please know that there is probably some hope for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Item number 8, agreement with U.S. Forest Service for cooperative law enforcement by Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. Sergeant Garibay. Oh, great. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sergeant Nathan Garibay, Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. And
Captain Ty Rupert, Deschutes County Sheriff's Office.
Thanks for joining us, Captain.
yeah, we're here to approve or get approval for
Nathan, why are you here?
I don't approve it. So we're here to get approval for a 5-year contract with U.S. Forest Service for cooperative law enforcement agreement. This is a longstanding agreement that we've had in place. We have that. We execute a 5-year contract, and then that contract is worth $67,320 annually. And that's to offset and reimburse sheriff's patrols on Forest Service land, roads, campgrounds.
What was the contract before?
I think Captain, it was roughly the same, I think.
Same,
That's what I was thinking. It doesn't look like inflation hit that number.
the same amount as it was.
Like we're doing a good service for our community, right?
We are,
Yes. Okay. It's just,
and it helps offset some of our payroll So this is a monthly, it's an annual 67, whatever, 67,
320.
320. And so what it does is monthly with the deputies track their time. And so we bill the Forest Service quarterly. So it helps offset some of our payroll for their services out in the forest.
Okay.
My question is, so there's a whole lot of discussion about cuts to the Forest Service's budget and workforce right now. Are you concerned that this grant is if this contract is would be affected by that?
Oh,
I haven't heard anything as it relates to these agreements at this point. So we hope it's not, I guess. Right answer.
I'll be asking about later items on the agenda too.
Yeah, and it won't affect our patrols. This benefits in the fact that it offsets some of our costs, but it won't affect our patrols for our deputies. So even if this was to go away, it still won't affect our patrols. Our deputies for special services will still be in the forest.
And my other question was about there's been a lot of discussion about which law enforcement officers are enforcing out on the federal public lands. Can you kind of describe for me what laws you are and aren't responsible for with these patrols?
I'll take first stab at that. So our deputies are able to enforce state laws, state and county laws. So those would be things like, any of your person crimes, property crimes, offensive littering, and things like violation of county dog ordinances and things like that that would be applicable. And then the Forest Service law enforcement, they would enforce federal regulations and CFRs. We do have a cooperative ability to where if somebody is violating those, we can let the Forest Service law enforcement know, and they can look into it and take appropriate action. And then likewise, they would share information with us.
Thank you for clarifying.
So, knowing that, this comes around every 5 years, this has been in place for a long time, but I think the, scenario is a little bit more acute for the long-term unsanctioned camping happening, and Forest Service is going to make a closure for China Hat in support of fuel reduction and environmental cleanup efforts. And we have that happening kind of all over, Sisters and Lapine are, bordered, right? You just walk right from downtown or just a quarter mile and you're out in the forest or BLM land. So this is just a moment that I support the fact that let's make sure we're all on the same page here. We already heard about dogs today, and we just had a dog activity. So, and we do have a dog ordinance. It says, please register your dogs and have them vaccinated, right? So I'm just showing the partnership here, and any thoughts on feedback on that, making sure I want to turn the corner on the unsanctioned long-term camping in support of not having uncontrolled fires in the summertime. From those, there's other reasons and other aspects of it, but any thoughts?
Yeah, I think for a long time, we have worked real close with the Forest Service and try to have a cooperative approach to these issues. We'll continue to do that. And as these developments occur where the Forest Service is taking more of, I guess, an assertive action or more acute action on some of these issues, where we stand by to support them and ensure that public safety is provided. And, we routinely have deputies out in these areas supporting not only the work that Forest Service law enforcement, but the Forest Service firefighting resources that firefighters are doing, both to prevent fires and to address violations where we can. We've done that. We'll continue to do that.
Yeah, great. As I say, we've just kind of watched a long-term unsanctioned camping culture grow. My goal is to just slow it down. Let's back it up a little bit. That because obviously it's an ancient problem. We're not going to be able to decisively stop all of this type of activity, and you're allowed to stay in the woods for a couple of weeks at a time. But we have got to back this up a little bit in partnership with everybody working together.
And we have a great, like Nathan said, we have a great working relationship with the Forest Service. BLM, BOR. We have several contracts that we work with. A lot of them overlap.
Yeah, okay.
So like the Forest Service, while they give us this amount, BLM gives us a certain amount, BOR gives us, and a lot of it overlaps. So for years, we've had these, and we have that working relationship. We do, obviously, we want to work with our community partners, both federal and state. So that's our goal too. So make sure, our priority obviously is Deschutes County is to make sure that our citizens are taken care of to the best that we can. That's very important to us.
Yeah.
And I know it is to our deputies and our sheriff. So we're going to continue that and do the best that we can, hopefully even increase it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and then on a different note, I saw the snowcat and the search and rescue for the lost lives, but I'm sure that was a big search and rescue deployment and effort last night. So thanks for that effort.
Absolutely. And once again, I thank you for the support in that. I came to you a few years ago and it's been instrumental in these, while they're very sad losses, it's instrumental in the safety of our team going out. I got an email last night, late at night, from one of the members just thanking me again for us getting this equipment. It gave them a warm area to work out of. It gave us a respectful place to transport the recovered folks home. So it was incredible. So we appreciate that.
Great. Any other discussion or is there a motion?
I move approval of county administrator's signature of document number 2025-126, a cooperative law enforcement agreement with the U.S. Forest Service.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I think I'm staying, aren't I?
Okay, well, let's keep you there then. Item number 9, application for grant from FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And we've got more people joining you.
Morning, Commissioners. For the record, Kevin Moriarty, County Forester.
Yeah, again, Nathan Garrity, Deschutes County Sheriff's Office.
Lauren Street, Natural Resource Specialist for the Natural Resources Department. Corinne Heiner, Fire Adapted Communities Coordinator.
Captain Ty Rupert, Deschutes County Sheriff's Office.
And we're here today for approval for the application submitted to the Oregon Department of Emergency Management for FEMA hazard mitigation grants and further authorize the county administrator to accept such grants if awarded. On February 3rd, Deschutes County Natural Resources Department and Deschutes County Sheriff's Office applied for 5 grants from the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program as a sub-applicant through the Oregon Emergency Management Program. The 2 grants that we applied for the Natural Resource Department was a Deschutes County Fuel Reduction Project. We are seeking $769,230 in grant funds to treat up to 850 acres within Deschutes County, working with 3 partners. That would be the City of Redmond, the City of Bend, and the Central Oregon Irrigation District. On the City of Redmond property in Dry Canyon, we're looking to treat up to 140 acres. The City of Bend property at Juniper Ridge, we're looking to treat up to 260 acres. The Central Oregon Irrigation District in South Bend near the Brooks Ridge community along the Deschutes River, we're looking to treat up to 65 acres. And on 3 Deschutes County properties, North Juniper Ridge, McGrath, and the larger industrial properties in Lapine, we're looking to treat up to 380 acres. That's the project number 1 for Deschutes for the Natural Resource Department. The second project would involve a project that we tried to apply for grant funding last year, and unfortunately we didn't receive it. And that would be updating and combining our 7 CWPPs into 1 CWPP. And we're requesting funding of $148,880 for a contract to combine those CWPPs. And I'll turn it over to Sergeant Garrity to discuss the other grants at this time.
All right. So the Sheriff's Office is has three, well, Sheriff's Office has two, and then the Fair and Expo in partnership with the Sheriff's Office has a third sub-application project. The first one is a transportation risk assessment, which would include analysis of our transportation system and evacuation capacity and capability, and identifying pinch points and challenges for future mitigation actions to be included in the next update to our natural hazard mitigation plan, and hopefully other future capital projects to support mitigation of transportation in Deschutes County.
So let's talk about that just real quick. So we've been in that spot, you and I both, and people call us like, well, what's the evacuation plan? Well, depends what the event is and what direction it's coming from. It's a wind-driven event. It could be coming from different angles. So you're saying kind of pre-analyze maybe some intersections or opening up something to be able to do that real-time evacuation plan.
Yeah, the hope here would be as one of these is commonly used in and around nuclear power plant facilities. They actually are regulated and have to have this analysis done. So we're working to apply this. City of Ashland utilized a contractor a few years ago to do some of this work. So we're kind of looking at what they did. And that will that risk assessment will essentially inventory the transportation system in respect to natural hazards and where those potential failure points could be. And then that would help us identify what we can do to relieve those failure points.
So even an intersection improvement or a turn lane or a light or how it will affect it, or put an officer right here to make sure this flows or something.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
That's our goal, is to have that help inform that future planning process.
Nathan, yesterday at the FireWise meeting, it was brought up that the only way out of Bend at times is actually to get on your bicycle, that the traffic can be so bad without a natural disaster. So I really think I would hope that you would talk to the people in the city of Bend to work up a plan. But I know Corinne was there, and several people commented how bad it is just in normal daily life. And it's, right now with our only being closed, can you imagine what that's doing? I just got on Greenwood yesterday. It took way too long to get through there. So, and Hope really isn't a way. Hope isn't going to work. We actually have to have a plan. And I know that you are the best in the state, so I know you will do something, because we've worked on, Tollgate and all those other communities in the county that have to worry about where do they live and do they have more than one option. So, yesterday's comments were really quite concerning.
Yeah.
And I just want to share them with you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate you letting me know about that. I think you also highlighted an important point, is that City of Bend is a key partner with this project. They've been engaged with City of Bend Emergency Management, Streets and Operations, as will ODOT and County Roads, and kind of other kind of key partners. So hopefully this will benefit the entire county, including the cities.
Nathan, will this project there was discussion about, like, in the moment, having people out to direct traffic, or, doing, various kinds of infrastructure improvements, but will this project address communications at all? Basically routing people to appropriate evacuation routes.
My hope would be that it would prioritize, so it would identify maybe some known challenges, prioritize mitigation options, and then help us kind of maybe that. I think that would in and of itself help us with kind of some pre-canned understanding and messaging, if we're specifically aware. And it would apply probably things that we intuitively know, but then it would apply some data and metrics to it so that it would kind of reinforce our messaging and planning. So that would absolutely include future communication strategies around don't use this area, or, timing of the evacuation, certain challenges. So I would hope that it would eventually lead to that. Again, that might be sussed out during the update of our natural hazard mitigation plan, applying more specificity to some of those mitigation action items kind of around that point.
How do our communications work now? I mean, there's a fire. You want to route people a certain direction, how are we communicating that out?
In most cases, the routes that people normally come and go from their home, even if they're challenged, are going to be the best route because that's what's been designed to manage the traffic for that community. But in situations where, say, a route is blocked or we're seeing certain challenges, we have the ability in our alert system to add specific instructions into the template. We typically do not need to do that or haven't done that. But if the situation arises, we can add specific information like, evacuate a certain direction or to not use a certain route. And then obviously that's the alert system. We could also utilize information on social and broadcast media to help back reinforce and support that. Our emergency mapping capability allows us to put put blocked roads on a map. So hopefully that would help also inform the public that a route would be blocked.
Thank you.
Okay. Would like to highlight that there is a match requirement on these grants, and that match would come from in kind of county, city, and other partner staff to support the project. The next project we're seeking funds for is for a natural hazard mitigation plan update. That update is due fall of 2026. So we're about 18 months away from needing to have that up to date. And with some revisions to, updated guidance, our hope is to hire a contractor to support county as well as city staff from all the jurisdictions, and then to also incorporate more participation from our special districts. So if special districts are incorporated into a county natural hazard mitigation plan, they're eligible for direct hazard mitigation grant projects, which would also relieve the county of being asked as often to be the intermediary or the fiscal agent for these grants. So it's kind of a win-win there. So our goal is to expand the number of jurisdictions actually involved in the hazard mitigation plan process. That would also require a match of about $16,000, which we're trying to incorporate into our budget, as well as a cost share agreement with the city of Bend on that. And then the fifth project is for Deschutes County Fair and Expo, and that is an alternate or a backup power generator for the South and Middle Sister building to support primarily for it is to support emergency operations and mass care and shelter operations at those facilities. The fairgrounds is obviously a premier and important facility for the county and the region. And those buildings currently don't have a dedicated backup power source. So that would support that facility during an emergency.
There's no backup source there now at the fairgrounds?
Some of the buildings have backup power. You have to get specifics from the director, but there is backup power in some of the buildings, but those two buildings in particular are not.
I saw Jeff is with us and has his hand up.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
Oh, there we go. Thank
Jeff.
you for joining us. Yep.
Good morning, Commissioners. I apologize, I'm not there in person. Yes, so currently North Sister, none of the sisters buildings, South or Middle Sister, which this application would provide backup power for, have backup power generation on those. We ran into that concern during the vaccination schedule when we were trying to make sure that we would be able to provide cooling for the storage of that vaccination as well as continuancy of operations at that time. The only place that does have backup power generation at this time, and it's only for emergency lighting, is on the First Interstate Bank Center.
Just for lighting, Jeff?
Just for emergency lighting, correct?
So Jeff, we're working on this solar with battery storage project for the Fair and Expo. How would that system intersect with this need for backup power?
No, the other granting opportunity we're looking at would be for water service. So that would be a solar system that would be attached to the roof of the Sagebrush Arena, which is removed by quite a distance from South and Middle Sister and removed even from First Interstate Bank Center. But the solar system there would be tied into a well and pumping system that would be designed to pump water out of the ground and then put in storage tanks so that we could continue to have water service during major disasters on grounds, which currently, again, we would have the inability to do so because the water system is not on backup power at this time either.
What about I mean, there's discussions of connections between work we want to do at the Fair and Expo and this microgrid project that North Unit Irrigation District and the City of Redmond are working on, short distance away. Does that affect power reliability at all for these facilities?
That's a good question. I think that's an exciting project and gives us some opportunities. At this time, there's not a connectivity between us and that project, but something certainly that I think is viable to look into to see if it would be a possible backup opportunity for us.
Thank you.
Well, a whole list of very interesting projects. So back to the big picture. This is to the Oregon Department of Emergency Management for FEMA hazard mitigation grants. So these are kind of mature asks from Deschutes County. These would be good investments from our point of view, not knowing what's going to happen at the higher level there. And we're going to do a bunch of letters of support here after this, or proposed letters. And it's kind of that same scenario. You know, we have a need here. You know, if we can get money for it, this is how valuable it'll be. So is there anything else?
I had one.
Yeah,
I
please.
had one more question. Kevin, the COID lands near Brookswood, is that the property that's going to ultimately be sold to Polish and be developed?
Just a portion of that property would be sold to Polish. There's a portion that is right underneath the community of River Canyon Estates that's been identified as a significant wildfire hazard, and there's a lot of access issues and a lot of reasons that hasn't been treated, and we've identified it for a need, but it wouldn't be part of the land being sold.
Okay, so that would be, these are 65 acres that COID will be retaining into the.
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, and then, you know, my other high level question is, we're seeing a lot of federal funding vanish into thin air right now. Do we have concerns about this program at FEMA being one of those?
I have not heard at this point. I think you know, obviously there's you know, there could be executive or legislative action to modify these programs, but the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is established under the Stafford Act, or revision to the Stafford Act, so it's legislative. So my
Or congressional appropriations, but that.
yeah. So, well, I mean, I think at this point it's within the Stafford Act, and just kind of along these lines, these funds are dedicated to communities that have been impacted by either a disaster or a fire management assistance grant. So these are post-fire FMAG programs, which I think are outlined under that specific program. So I at this point have not heard that those are potentially at risk, but you know, I think with the exception of the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, these are things that we really want to do. However, they are discretionary. The NHMP we have to do. Well, I guess if there's no grant funding, I suppose that would eliminate part of that. But those are things we really should be doing regardless of funding. So I think at this point we'll just, you know, we kind of have to ask and then see where they go. I think typically the life cycle of a lot of these grants is over several years. So it could change between now and then.
Yeah. Are we kind of along those lines? Are we giving our congressional delegation the heads up that we're submitting these grants? And if not, I think it could be helpful to let them know so that they can, in whatever discussions they have with the administration, they could be advocating to make sure that these programs stay whole in the face of a lot of uncertainty right now.
Well, do you want the Board of Commissioners to do that afterwards? You know, like a letter of
Sure.
You know, content of what we're asking for here and how it fits into the big picture.
That'd be great. I mean, we could do a joint letter with the sheriff conceivably.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that. We haven't reached out to any delegation at this point, but you know, these are this is a sub-application for the state of Oregon that will be applying holistically, you know, for FEMA for grants throughout the state of Oregon.
Yeah. So I mean, if I could flag for somebody on staff to work on that letter, I mean, at least informed by Nathan and Kevin.
I saw her raise her hand in the back. Yeah. Okay,
That'd be great.
so how about, yeah, let's get to a proposed official application motion.
I do have a question. Nathan, back to routes. What about Sundance? Have you been out there recently? I know there's been some questions on how they get out of there if there is an emergency.
Yeah, haven't been out there in several months, but they still, you know, are constrained to the one official exit.
One official, right?
Yeah, I think there's some opportunities out there for the Sundance neighborhood to organize and work with neighboring landowners to develop a mutually beneficial agreement. At this point, that's not something we've had probably an ability or success in negotiating, but I think there's certainly, we would support, you know, them in any way, you know, them and a neighboring landowner that was willing to partner. I think we would support that. You know, Sundance is, you know, as it currently stands, probably prioritization to, you know, making sure that main exit out to Horse Butte Road.
Yes.
I had to think about that too long, I think, is well maintained, and, you know, brush clearance along that route, you know, landowners and property owners doing their work along that route in particular, would definitely.
But what if the fire's coming from that direction though? How do they get out of there?
Yeah, I think
I mean, I remember, yeah, somebody
could
fenced it
potentially
off.
pose a problem, and that's why I think, you know, hardening those evacuation routes is is also a number one priority, I think, for a lot of fuels treatments. So, whether it's private or public ground, where you can harden the evacuation routes, that even if they are impacted by fire, that it reduces the risk to people evacuating through that area, is one strategy to mitigate some of those one way in, one way out communities.
Well, I was hearing about someone who didn't realize their development was on fire and drove through it. And by the time he drove like a mile, all his tires were flat. So, you know, you really can't drive through a fire. You've got to have another option. And I would hope that, can we help that community put that together?
Absolutely. And we've had conversations, and I continue to have conversations. If there's a willing property owner that wants to support an emergency exit, you know, we would absolutely help facilitate.
We'd love to hear from them.
Yes, absolutely. If you're a neighbor to Sundance, and
Right.
we would love to work, you know, help facilitate that conversation.
Because there's a lot of homes in there, and it's really, you just always have to be prepared. And the sooner we do something, I think it's better. And to bring up the history, last year, I believe there were 80 fires that Bend Fire had to deal with that were started by transients. So 80 fires last year. So yeah, we've really got to get ahead of the game.
For a motion.
I'll move approval of the application submitted to the Oregon Department of Department of Emergency Management for FEMA hazard mitigation grants, and further authorize the county administrator to accept such funds if awarded.
And a letter of support to congressional? Want to just part of the.
Do we need a?
No,
motion for
let's
that?
not put it in that motion.
Fine.
I'll second it.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. So so then the letter is
Yeah,
supposed to be started, and then we'll see a final version. of
I
it.
figured we'd
Yep.
do a motion
That's
to
fine.
approve the letter.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very much.
Good to see the whole natural resource crew here today.
Yeah, Kevin, do you have any extra money in your fund? No, really. I know you had serious funding, and we need to get more done in Deschutes County. I'm just wondering, is there anything in your budget that you can propose?
Well, part of these FEMA grants would be probably using some of the contingency funding that we have in natural resources. The last grants we used contingency funding, and that was the consideration we thought of this year, or for these grants. For the next 3 years, we had to, there is 25% match that has to be part of these grants. And so that will be a combination of in-kind contingency funding and funding from property management.
And don't forget, I found a herd of goats that can do a lot of good work. No, I mean, Jefferson County's used them, Bend Parks and Rec have used them. So I would hope Deschutes County could be using them too.
So Kevin, you're saying you would use your contingency funds as the matching funds for these federal grants?
Yes, as part of it, we have the option to use cash or in kind. So a lot of the grant administration would be some of the in kind, but to make up some of that match, we'd use contingency as well. The one thing with these FEMA grants is you can't really use outside grant funding or projects outside of these polygons that we have created because there would be environmental analysis and you wouldn't necessarily be able to use outside sources for funding.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
So there's, Jen's going to be coming up for a few items, but there's a letter to be discussed right now too.
Hi, Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. So we're going to do one other item while we have Kevin here, and then I think we'll go back to the agenda and then the rest of the other items. So I'm going to pass out the entire other items package, but right now we're just going to discuss the first one, which is HB 3135.
Thank you. Yep.
Thanks, Jen.
Yep. Okay, I'll get us started and then Kevin's here for any technical questions. But during Friday's legislative update meeting, the commissioners discussed HB 3135, which is a juniper remediation grant House bill. And it was requested to draft a letter that also incorporates not just water mitigation, but wildlife or wildfire risk mitigation. And then Kevin also briefly talked about habitat improvement language to be added in there. So this is the draft letter. I believe you all received it via email yesterday. So I'll pause there, see if there's any specific questions or changes, or if you want me to read the letter out loud.
So Commissioner Chang, I know you were thinking of
Yep. I'm
other things other than just water or juniper removal, or is this?
I think this is a great letter.
Okay, good. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Kevin?
No, I've worked as an ecologist. I worked for the BLM for quite some time and learned a lot about juniper ecology and the effects of allowing juniper encroachment to happen and some of those detrimental effects, and just trying to capture that in this letter. We focused on water, but there's several reasons to be reducing the juniper cover in Deschutes County.
Right.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
You're welcome.
So the main bullet points: reduce wildfire risk, increase water availability, improve wildlife habitat. So multiple aspects. So is there support for this letter? So this will go in. I think there's a hearing tomorrow or today or something.
When's the hearing?
I looked it
This
up
is
real
one
quick,
that,
sorry.
yeah.
Tracking a lot.
Doug Riggs is sending us a note on this, and soil and water conservation districts will be part of this also.
I don't believe there's no scheduled hearing at this time. The letter came up out of the board discussion on whether or not there was a consensus for priority support for HB 3135 or support with amendments. And I think that's where this letter was, to suggest some language change in HB 3135 for those sponsoring.
So, okay, and I just see a note here. How did the hearing go? So maybe it was yesterday. I don't know if maybe it's not this bill, but
There,
a bunch
yesterday
of
that
email
was
traffic.
5025 hearing. Maybe that's what or today was 5025
Yeah.
hearing. Maybe that was.
okay. Well, is there a motion to support this letter?
I'll move approval of this letter in support of House Bill 3135, requesting amendments to add focus on wildfire risk reduction and wildlife habitat.
Second it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang. Yes. Commissioner Dare.
Yes.
Chair will vote yes. Thank you very much.
Great. If you want to sign one of those hard copies.
And I just scribbled on mine, but yeah. if there's-
I did
Make
not
Brenda and
hear
I
you.
like.
Oh,
I have.
Oh,
You
it
can
was
see it
really
coming.
Nice. No, I looked at it. I could tell it was a nice copy. It didn't say draft.
Adair has one.
Yeah, I could tell what you were doing.
I just underlined something and wrote soil or SWCD on the bottom.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so then back to our published agenda item 10, Cannabis Advisory Panel Budget Recommendations.
Great. Again, Jen Patterson, some staff support for the Cannabis Advisory Panel. They met on January 27th, and that meeting served twofold. It had a mid-year update for departments who received cannabis revenue, tax revenue from the last fiscal year. And then they also considered budget requests for fiscal year 26 cannabis tax revenue. It is the same four departments who received it last year who also requested funds this year. There was a great discussion amongst the board or the panel, and the budget recommendation as noted in the staff report is the community. So let me back up. The fiscal year 26 cannabis tax revenue estimate is $197,000. With that, the Cannabis Advisory Panel recommends for board consideration, 26,000 of that going to community justice to provide substance use prevention and treatment services, specifically for justice-involved youth and their families. $20,000 to CDD for their continued efforts in code enforcement related to marijuana code complaints. They work very closely with the sheriff's deputy on those, and I think some other partnership has formed out of that Cannabis Advisory Panel. 56,000 to health services to continue the paid media advertising focused on supporting parents and guardians in the county to talk with their kids about marijuana and other drugs. They have had this PSA campaign going, I think, for about a year and a half. It's been highly successful, and they want to expand a little bit with some Spanish-speaking PSAs and just further outreach to get more people aware of the program. And then $95,000 to the sheriff's office to continue funding support of a marijuana detective.
Jen, so these look very familiar.
Mhm.
I mean, are these basically the same purposes or activities?
Yes, with I think the one exception is community justice. Last year, they applied for funding. This is going to test my brain a little bit. They applied for funding for specific training, a training tool that I think that was offered out of Minnesota, if I'm remembered accurately, to train some staff. So this year they gave a really interesting presentation on FFT, I believe, functional family therapy, and the work that they're doing with justice-involved youth and incorporating their entire community, basically their family, as well as counselors, school, teachers, whatever that youth community look like, bringing them into that therapy, which they've seen a much higher success rate of that by involving not just the youth in the therapy, but their surrounding community. So I would say they also received funds last year, but it was for a different ask. But a CDD, health services, and sheriff's office ask is almost verbatim for what they supported last year with a little bit of expanded services, but along the same lines.
So is there a motion to accept the recommendations? That's what we're doing today?
Correct.
So are you the liaison then for this board?
Correct.
So do they know that Kevin Sabé may be here speaking in April when they have the DUII? I think it's an annual meeting. That's somebody that, Kevin is like a nationally known drug expert. And I would hope that this group would know about the fact, if he actually is, booked for it, but they were talking about bringing him in.
I will be happy to send an informational email out.
Yeah, if you can,
staff.
well, you can find out from the DUII, it's a governor's board that, will be meeting here. I think it's April 3rd and 4th.
I will definitely let them know that resource is available for them to participate in if they're so.
Yeah, there's all kinds of really good information from that group. Yeah, I was seeing where marijuana, the industry is glutted and the prices are, that's why we're not getting more money. That it's over.
That
produced.
was the interesting part of that is that actually the original deliberation was for 189 and then the cannabis owners on our panel brought it down to 175,000 just because their revenue is down. But then was able to get further clarification from the state. So we actually had more money to work with and had to call an ad hoc meeting to distribute the other $22,000 in funding. But yeah, so that's the feedback that we're getting from the owners on the panel, but it didn't translate into revenue dollars. Revenue dollars went up about $12,000 from the year before.
So it's hard to be a business person in this industry, but that doesn't necessarily mean that sales revenue is down statewide.
That appears to be the correlation that I'm no finance expert, but yes, the feedback that we're getting from on the ground is that it's a little bit tougher.
Well, the illegal business is still going on. So that's the dilemma. We never got control of that.
Well, that's part of the investment here is in code enforcement and in a marijuana detective at the sheriff's office.
Yeah, we have two marijuana, or I think they're drug enforcement detectives on the one officially on the panel, and one is a partner, sheriff's partner on the who sits in, and they provide updates on a quarterly basis. It's really fascinating information that they're providing.
There a motion to accept the recommendation?
I would move to accept the recommendations of the Cannabis Advisory Panel on expenditure of $197,000 of forecasted marijuana tax revenue for fiscal year 2026.
Second it?
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you very much for that effort.
Great. Me again.
Okay, next item is
Me for a
yeah,
minute.
I know, 11, application for 2025 grant funds for the Wolf Depredation and Financial Compensation Committee.
Yep. Again, Jen Patterson, also staff liaison for the Deschutes County Wolf Depredation and Financial Compensation Committee. This committee met twice as well, once in January and then once again on February 11th, I believe, to consider a couple different application formats. Actually, maybe I should just back up a little bit. So the Oregon Department of Agriculture offers a yearly grant program for ranchers and producers who are impacted by wolves. The grant program is a couple-fold. One, to financially compensate for when depredation and missing livestock have been confirmed, depredation confirmed or missing presumed on an operation by a wolf or wolves. Additionally, the Oregon Department of Agriculture's program also has grant funds to implement livestock management activities and non-lethal wolf deterrence techniques to prevent interactions or to mitigate interactions between wolves and livestock or working dogs. So in 2024, not fiscal year, but the year 2024, there were no confirmed depredations of wolves in Deschutes County, and no ranchers or producers applied for missing funds. With that being said, the committee started engaging with several new ranch operations who operate both in Deschutes and Crook County, who have been impacted by wolves. There were on one of their properties, at least, a confirmed depredation in Crook County. So their properties, from what we hear, are primarily about 50% in Deschutes, 50% in Crook County. And so they are getting, there's kind of a new wolf corridor, at least temporarily, if not permanent. We don't know. It's fairly new, I think, starting in November of 2024 through that area in eastern Deschutes County. And so these ranchers are being impacted for their whole operations that also encompass Deschutes and Crook County. So the committee received 3 applications for preventative measure funds. There was some long discussions with the committee and some of the ranchers engaged for those funds. Additionally, the committee met in the end of, I think, January 21st, and discussed applying for preventative measure funds to implement county-wide through some of our agency partners, kind of as a pass-through grant to help implement non-lethal preventative measure funds. A backstory to that too is in November of 2024, Wildlife Services hired a new non-lethal wolf specialist who is operating in a tri-county area, which is Crook County, Jefferson County, and Deschutes County. And his name is David. He is engaging with the ranchers, which is how we had 3 new ranchers come to the Wolf Committee through his engagement out in the field to help mitigate some of those damages. So the committee also considered applying for a pool of grant funding on behalf of the county that would get passed through agency partners to help out as a whole on non-lethal preventative measures. So with that, the committee is recommending that the county apply for Oregon Department of Agriculture wolf non-lethal preventative measure grant funding in the amount of $132,800. $30,000 of that is would potentially go toward that county-wide effort through our partners like Wildlife Services, ODF&W. And then we had very specific request from the McCormick Ranch in the amount of $81,000 to implement non-lethal preventative measures. They're a very large ranch that has been who's starting to feel some significant impacts through the wolf traffic in that corridor. The Hatfield Hide Land Trust is applying for $16,800, and the Desert Creek Land, Cattle, and Timber Company submitted an application consideration in the amount of $5,000. So we would pool that applications together, total to ODA in the amount of $132,800. I'll pause there. I have some information on kind of grant funding availability. Commissioner Chang sits on the committee, so he may have additional comments or information to share, and happy to answer any questions.
I mean, the only thing I would add is I think there's a little bit more to the explanation of wolf activity in that South Crook County, East Deschutes County area. There is, if not a breeding pair, like there's a resident group of wolves in the South Mowry Mountains in Crook County. And then there's also this sort of, I think it actually goes back farther than November 2024, but it's gotten a lot more busy. But this zone, kind of on the south side of the Blue Mountains, seems to be like a significant migration corridor or dispersing area for wolves coming out of Eastern Oregon, so that they, if they're headed to Northern California or, Klamath County or, Jackson County or places like that, it seems like there are a significant number of wolves passing through this area, not necessarily taking up residence, but that means that these ranchers in this South Crook County, East Deschutes County area are, not only do they need to deal with resident wolves out in the South Mowrys, but they also need to deal with migrating wolves coming through there. So that's the, to me, one of the key reasons to make this a focus area for prevention activities.
Any thoughts, Commissioner?
Thoughts? Yeah, they had a massive wolf problem in Klamath County. I think it was like last couple of weeks. Terrible. Yeah, and it was a collared wolf, and they couldn't get rid of it. Anyway, it was horrible, the pictures. So, yeah, that's why whenever I walk to my barn at night, I always look around, like what's out there, because I know my neighbors have seen them.
So is there a motion?
I'm happy to make the motion, but I'm also the commissioner who sits on the committee, so.
And I do have one more point of business to bring out before the motion comes, just informational. There for the last year, the county received approximately $32,000 in funds from ODA. They were passed through. $2,070.18 was approved to be passed through to Wildlife Services to help in our carcass removal program. The funds needed to be expended by January 31st of 2025. The grant agreement was signed beginning or mid-January there, and I was just waiting on the vendor app from Wildlife Services. It was taking a very long time. I pinged them again this week. We could spend the money afterwards as long as the contract was kind of in place. And unfortunately, Wildlife Services has been told that they cannot engage in any grant activity as a federal directive, either coming or going. And so they're not going to be able to expend those funds. I did talk to ODA. We are going to give those funds back to ODA. However, I was recommended to mention that in our grant application, if we do have one per the commissioner's purview, and that potentially that could just be also added back in based on the circumstances of this particular small pool of funds. So just wanted to give that information out to you. There's no budget impact or adjustment for the county. It was always going to be a pass through. So it's being passed through, just passed through back to the initial agency. So
Delayed by a year.
Yeah.
And how much was that again?
$2,070.18.
So did they actually do the work?
Yeah, so the new non-lethal wolf specialist he's out of Prineville, but the Tri-County is still employed through November of 2025. I talked to the chair at Crook County. I haven't talked to her this week. But we happen to get the information about Wildlife Services. They're termed 1-year contracts, and they have gotten information that all of their term 1-year contracts won't be renewed whenever they're up. And so for a carcass removal program, which has proven successful in many places, and the wolf biologist Aaron Bott has talked to the committee very frequently on carcass removal programs, and actually Baker County just had a successful story in their local paper on their carcass removal program. I think the committee will discuss this in April, but use those funds, but won't be able to pay directly to Wildlife Services. He will still be on the ground available to do that, but there might have to be some contracting services on being able to support that particular project. So those funds were set up for Wildlife Services. He is actually doing them. So I'm not sure. And I think the money was expected. So I'm not sure where those funds were getting paid, but we have heard from those ranchers that he is engaging with them on those services as need be.
And what's his name?
I was going to say, I want to say it's Dave.
Is it Dave or something?
Let me just look it up so I don't give you the wrong name. I apologize. I've met him many times, and for some reason, his name is just blanking on me, but I can pull it up real quick. David Andrews. He's out of Prineville. So he's attended our last 2 meetings, which were the meetings, he wasn't hired until November. So he wasn't there for the previous meeting of that, but he's been very engaged with the committee and the wolfer, or the ranchers and producers in that particular area, but is available countywide and in Crook and Jefferson County.
Are you inclined to make a motion?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'll second it, but I won't make it.
I'll move to authorize staff to apply for grant funds from the Oregon Department of Agriculture for distribution and use by the Wolf Depredation and Financial Compensation Committee in the amount of $132,800.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
I guess the one other thing to be aware of is prevention requests have historically been funded at a fraction of the requested amount. So, I can't predict exactly what fraction it's going to be, but, probably under 50% of what we asked for. And so then the funds that are awarded will go back to the committee to sort out, kind of what among the prevention activities requested for are the most strategic and highest priorities and the best bang for our buck.
Okay, and I did find the post on the wolf that was causing all the damage. It was wolf number OR 158, and it was actually in Lakeview and not in Klamath. Yeah, a family operation. It started January 30th, and they saw a freshly killed calf, a bawling mother, and anyway, he was within 50 yards of the wolf. It went on and on. And then 2 days later, the wolf was attacking another calf, and it was a newborn. Anyhow, he has a history of preying on livestock with at least 6 known kills before us, but they were dumbfounded with they had no rights to protect their animals. And as a rancher and a veterinarian, you could look up the story. It's from the people called, let's see. Anyway, it's through Mesa Greenfield. So it's one of her friends.
I'll look that up. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's when you read that and you think about, because I see baby calves, driving around now, and I see baby lambs, and I know my neighbors now used to not put their sheep in, but they put their sheep in every day. You can see them. They know they have to go in every night. So yeah, it was an awful story.
Calling for the vote, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes also. Thank you. Lots of good information there.
It's me again. All right, Jen Patterson for the record. Now we're up to talk about the annual State of South Deschutes County breakfast presentation.
Yeah,
So
this
you,
is item number 12. I didn't know if you.
sorry, I didn't let
No, I'll
you.
just coordinate with you. So this is go to item number 12 because we got more letters to follow also. That's why.
Go back and
Yep.
do.
Okay, yeah,
Great. So
this is next Tuesday.
yes, on the 25th. And so this is the draft presentation. Again, just the initial draft. Then we can go slide by slide and, any changes you'd like to make. If you want slide notes and inserted in, if you want to designate certain slides to certain commissioners, we can do that as well, whatever your preference here is.
So yeah, getting to the
Oh.
slides, legislative priorities. So this is a little bit different point in time. Legislature's in session right now. But I mean, all these topics are ones that we can speak to also. So this is for all of us just to kind of digest what we might be doing. We've been invited. This is Sun River and La Pine Chambers of Commerce at the Shark. It'll be well attended. And there'll be other speakers there. So this isn't just the county, but it'll be, 15, 20 minutes or, maybe a half hour.
You know how much time we have? Because
Yeah,
it's always important.
They say, yeah.
We're just looking that up. Do you?
It's usually like 15.
I thought it was 15. I'm looking at Brenda too. I know she's gotten some of the.
A lot of slides for 15 minutes.
And yeah, so I took it off of the template from last year, which had a lot more content in there. So tried to slim the content down, but even this slide alone could be 15 minutes. So that's something to consider. And as I'm chatting my way through this, I'm trying to get the original email that was sent with the time frame there. If Brenda, or I think we're all three furiously looking to see if we can find it.
I'll just flag one other edit. There's a heading, like a slightly incorrect heading on the housing and land investments slide.
Yep, I kept the heading from last time and we changed the slide. That was my bad. Okay, so we should, let's see.
So it should, the subheading that says Foundation for Affordable Housing, then it has a bullet about the Foundation for Affordable Housing below that, and then it has another bullet about Habitat for Humanity below that. So if the heading could just be affordable housing.
Thank you. You won't see the changes on your slide, but I'll make the changes actively.
Thank you.
While perhaps I think that we don't know your exact time frame, but I think last year it was 15, maybe 20 minutes tops.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay. So the legislative priority slide, these are the 5 bullet points that we've been kind of using for the last few months on different presentations or documents. Is there any feedback on having all 5 here or reducing it for time or input or content?
I can talk to any of those and they seem to be the priority. Maybe move the order of them a little bit. I'm just looking at wildfire risk. Maybe put that on the top, just that's a big hot topic of the day in the maps. But from Project Wildfire and the history of Deschutes County, just the basics, defensible space, neighborhoods working together, understanding what it means to be resilient to a wind-driven fire. So just changing the order.
I have wildfire risk reduction program at the top, housing, homelessness, behavioral health and public health funding, transportation system funding, water issues.
So then water.
Is that so you described what our programs are,
Yeah.
but that's not what the legislation is
Um,
about. So, do you want to discuss that on a different slide than our legislative priorities?
So, now I'm thinking, is this going to be a talking point slide or just a menu type slide, where we're going to talk about these things?
Yeah,
The next
that's
one.
definitely up to your discretion.
Yep,
I
yep.
think with the time frame involved and with several other slides, there'd be a minimal amount of time available to delve into each.
Yeah, well, as I say, it looks like this is a standalone slide. It doesn't reference going to the next one for more detail. So that I'm just thinking that through right now. As I say,
We're not really tracking any housing or homelessness legislation on our bill tracker, are we?
Not currently. We haven't discussed any that have come up and I haven't seen any that have come up. And
That's a priority for the legislature, but it's not necessarily something that we're focusing a lot of energy on.
for the bills that we have reviewed and for the bills that we have had before us and the priorities of the commissioner, that is accurate. Yeah. So if it doesn't necessarily fit under the county's legislative priorities, not that it's not a county priority, but legislative priorities, we can remove that from there.
That's the other, all 4 of those other bullets that we are actively tracking bills that
Correct. Mhm.
affect those issues.
and that's fine. Let's remove it from there because that comes up automatically already. Housing and homelessness. As I say, we're going to run out of time before we even get started. You can just see it already. So we have to be real careful.
And I don't recall the order of presentations, but I think last year the board was last. And so if everybody else goes over, then your time is even
Yeah.
further squeezed. So I don't recall what the agendas.
I have not seen the agenda either, and it sounds like Brenda hasn't either. So I don't think we have an idea. I can reach out for that.
Yeah, well, there'll be.
Is there a question and answer period?
If possible.
There was last year. There has been.
Do you want to assign this specific slide to any commissioner, or do you want to figure it out when you're up there? Or take turns?
I think it's probably a good idea to assign, and it's probably a good idea to get the content on the slide right and basically not say anything more than that.
I have, right now then the changes is wildlife risk reduction program, behavioral health and public health funding, transportation system funding, and water issues. And then I'm not sure if this is a little bit relevant, but on some of those, on a couple of those issues, we're going to talk about it under other items, but are the legislative priorities to talk about the legislatures. They have some bullet points on a couple of those. So if you want to add in some bullet points, we have some for consideration that was going to happen later in the meeting today, but we could add that in there too. We specifically, we have the wildfire and behavioral health, public health that we were going to talk about this Friday.
There's good stuff on all of these, good and important stuff on all these slides. I'll go in whatever order. Doesn't matter to me.
So the housing and land investments talks about closed sale of 0.3 acres, sale of industrial properties. Maybe put that on the last slide for economic development because it talks about Lapine industrial lots in collaboration with cities sold numerous lots. So we can consolidate that and leave housing and land investment.
Sorry, I missed the consolidation. What were you looking, what?
So housing and land investment slide, the next one or two. I
Oh,
have
one more.
there, yeah. Talks about Lapine industrial property sales.
Keep
But then
going.
the next
Last-
slide is economic development and it talks about Lapine industrial lot.
Okay.
That's the same
so we could-
concept.
Yep.
So weave the second
remove
half
that
of
from
that,
there.
that slide into the next one.
So for the economic development one, we can just keep the EDCO funding and the EDCO loan program, forgivable loan program, and then remove the Lapine industrial lots from there.
Yeah. I mean, and if we want to talk about land investments, we, are we far enough along with the discussion of a behavioral health building in, right next to St. Charles in Lapine to mention that? I mean,
Probably not. I'm not sure that we're far enough along with that project that, since we have, we're not responding to the state's RFP at this time.
right. But I mean, we still, if we don't have services co-located with primary care, then we can't do CCBHC anymore. So I mean, we need, we're gonna, I think behavioral health would say we're gonna do that, but.
Yes, I think the question is the location, whether it's on that property or it could be the South County property. I'm just not sure that if the board has settled on where that facility, certainly it's a priority to have facility in Lapine. I just didn't know if the board had settled on a location for that.
Right. I mean, it has to be co-located with primary care. So I mean, there isn't another location, is there?
Well, this is executive session, kind of land use development
Right.
type stuff. But I mean, I don't know, are we going to have a clarity before next Tuesday morning to say this is what we're doing and where we're doing it?
That's what I was asking.
I don't think so.
Are we clear enough? Okay. I think clear enough, but okay, that's fine.
So then, on the housing and land investments, new neighborhood is maybe the time to start laying that out a little bit. Just the big picture, instead of Lapine industrial property sales, talk about, a couple hundred acres, master planning, water and sewer is done, opportunities abound. This is going to be an opportunity for housing, development, inside of an urban growth boundary. The path is wide open on that for quite a while. So that would be the second highlighted.
Okay, so I'm hearing potentially getting rid of the Lapine industrial property sales and adding in the new neighborhood plan and a few details on that. Okay.
Yep, that's good. And that detailed information about the industrial property sales will just go into the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So keep it into the economic development.
And merge the information somehow.
I mean, we're talking about something from 2022 that was a banner year. That was quite a while ago.
And then, maybe change that graphic to something about the land associated with the new neighborhood. Because we also have quadrants for sale, right? I mean, that's interesting.
Yep.
That's a bullet point in itself, you know, 2 10 or 12 acre quadrants, whatever it is, on the open market right now, available for the next. And that could be done tomorrow.
That's a third heading on this slide. Yeah.
Or
Or Newberry neighborhood, and then have one bullet about the master planning and another one about the quadrants.
content,
for
yeah,
sale.
however it looks.
Okay.
I was just thinking the content. So as I say, other than the introduction side, it looks like we have kind of 5 more here. So legislative priorities, is that one commissioner or we're going to pick a bullet there? Yeah, kind of going back to the who would say what, where.
Well, we're not really saying much about these things, I think it's one commissioner.
So yeah, they could all be conversation starters, but we're not going to go deep into each one of them, you're thinking. Just reading bullet points.
I mean, it's basically a sentence or less about each of those items, I think.
Thoughts?
I'm just waiting to see it revamped on the screen.
It's not gonna be, I'm working it from my computer, so I'll bring it back before you on Monday.
Okay, yeah, we'll have a second.
With the updated one. So what I can do, and the screen doesn't show it, but I have the notes section, so I'll print it off for you to the notes going into the Monday final review. And I can add in 1 sentence for each of we now have 4 bullet points, which is wildfire risk reduction, behavioral health and public health funding, transportation system funding, and water issues. And then in the notes section, I can put 1 sentence for each of those. If that
So-
works for your review on Monday.
So then maybe,
Fabulous.
so maybe we're winding up what we're going to do right now, let you reformat it, print it, email it to us, and then Monday we'll be able to.
Yep.
Final.
We just talk about the 2 slides then that we haven't talked about yet, just to make sure that they're okay, which is the next one, the county commission and expanding to 5, and the Newberry Regional Partnership. If there are any thoughts or edits on that you'd like to have
So
me,
Newberry Regional Partnership, they're working on like publishing the final right now. In fact, I think their goal was before next Tuesday. That's exactly what they want to do. So we're probably not a lead on that other than a supporting partner, and, you know, we'll be a partner at the table. So, you know, we don't need to act like we own it per se, but we can sure talk about it.
That's what the bullets say. Support the work.
Yeah, well, as I say, I don't know how much they're going to make that as a
Focus.
unveiling at this
Oh,
thing. I guess
okay.
that's where I was going with that. You know, that is to say, it may be, I don't know the timing of it, you know, this might be their unveiling.
I can remove that. I mean, I think there's plenty of other information in these slides to talk about. So if the preference is to let them have their spotlight there and remove it from this, I'm happy to do that. If-
Well, I mean, so maybe it's just the logistics of, are we going to be before Newberry Regional Partnership? Are they using?
I'll try to
this
figure out the
as
agenda
unveiling
too.
Or not?
Yeah.
I guess that's really where I was.
When I
going.
send you the updated draft, I'll,
We can congratulate them
Yeah,
on it
yeah,
if
exactly.
they have announced it.
Well, I mean, what we could talk about, and I don't see it anywhere else in here, is what is the South County plan? Newberry Country Plan? I mean, so we didn't mention the Newberry Country Plan that CDD will be working on that we haven't started yet. I think that maybe that's a better thing to sub in here.
Yeah, so then it fits together because they complement each other. This is a visioning project, big picture, kind of encompassing anything. You know, a Newberry Country Plan would be a little bit more land use and, you know, future development directions.
okay. So subbing out Newberry Regional Partnership, adding in Newberry Country Plan. Great. And then are we good with the bullet points for the commission expanding? It's pretty broad and generic at this juncture.
Sure, it's fine.
Yep.
And then I think the last slide that we have not discussed is the groundwater protection and the fire-free yard debris disposal events. Fire-free yard debris disposal events, pretty straightforward, just announces when those are taking place, particularly at the Southwest Transfer Station.
So what about putting this whole slide behind the next one? Because if we talk about the new neighborhood's going to be providing groundwater protection funds when sales happen, and then groundwater protection can happen. So, you know, funded opportunities. financial assistance.
So have housing and investments, the next
Before
slide,
this, yeah.
and then having the groundwater protection and fire-free.
Mhm.
Like, okay, you can do that. That's an easy move.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna coordinate with health services just to see if there's a brief statement to include.
Yeah,
And then the other thing, we don't need to include it on the slide, but commissioners may just want to mention in the morning, by the way, tomorrow night, we look forward to our
Right.
regular joint meeting with the Lapine City Council as we coordinate on issues, that matter to South County residents, something of that nature.
I think the new neighborhood folks and the city councilor from the new neighborhood, I've already heard people saying, oh, we're looking forward to going to this one. So I think these are going to be well attended all of a sudden, which is great.
Last year was
Yeah.
really well attended.
Yep.
Maybe even sold out. Yeah.
Okay, well, as I say, we'll look at it again Monday.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll
Great.
take all those changes. I'll get a draft into your inbox hopefully by the end of the week, so you can have some time to review that before Monday's meeting.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Great.
That's all I had for the official agenda.
That was the agenda. So now other items, which is the other letters you have. Yep.
You want me to stay here or do you want to do your thing first?
Oh. Please proceed. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the next package we have, so the first page in there, we already talked about when Kevin was in the room. So the next letter for board consideration is the BRIC funding, which is through FEMA, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Funding. We talked about this on Friday at the legislative update meeting. It sounded like there was at least 2 commissioners interested in supporting a letter. And so here's the draft form of the letter for your consideration and signature if so.
So this is follow on from our Oregon Living with Fire multi-county Forest Service partnership. And basically it's what we did last time around. So it's kind of a mature application. Of course, it's in the scenario of will BRIC grants be funded or not? But
And how much are they asking for?
They,
Where is the number?
and I don't know that offhand now either.
I always get that because I know you always ask
Yeah.
that question.
Well, you're asking for money from the federal government. So it would be nice to know how much they're
Got
asking.
it somewhere. Let me.
When I've heard the number now, it's all mixed up in my head. I'm thinking either
Well, the fact that,
600,000 or,
no, it's like 2.5 million.
well, that's the thing. That's why I didn't want to say a number. Right?
It's a couple million, or it was a couple million. What they were originally asking for. I mean, the fact that our interest is now over $1 trillion.
Well, and that is in light of this. I mean, do we
Yeah.
not do this? This is
Well-
this is a committee effort. It was a mature ask last time. They're thinking, do we do this again or not? And this is the policy moment where we either sign up on it or we don't. But the application process is open. So there's no indication that the process isn't happening. It's just,
What fire rating did the museum get?
I don't have that information. And unfortunately, I don't have how much grant funding they're asking for this. I apologize.
Okay. Don't know.
The key issue is that there's, in both museums, there are, artifacts, there's cultural resources that are essentially unreplaceable. So the question is, how do you best protect things like that? That was my understanding of how applications for BRICS funding for these particular sites came forward.
And I do have the amount they're asking for. They're asking for 6.3 million
6.3. Oh, no.
for allocation for system installation management, educational outreach to ensure long-term sustainability and to enhance staff proficiency.
so as I say, it's a defined project, been thought about quite a bit. It's basically coming back off the shelf to be reapplied. I don't know if it'll be money or not, but do we support sending a letter out? And I'm on that board.
If there is a grant program and these funds are going to be awarded, I think that this is a worthy project from our region to put forward.
And I support it also. So is that a motion then?
Yeah, I would. Well, do we want to put in a dollar amount into this letter? I mean, was that one of the things requested? I mean,
In the draft letter that they sent us, they did not include it. The letter is an attachment to their application, so it'll be thoroughly requested in their application, specifically the dollar amount and how much they're asking. If you want to, we can amend that to
Yeah.
put that in here, but
That makes sense. Okay, so I will support, or I move approval of this letter to the BRICS grant program, the FEMA BRICS grant program, in support of the Building Wildfire Resilient Landscapes for the Protection of Indigenous Cultures and Museums project.
You can,
I'll
you can second it.
Yep, that's fine. Okay. Any other discussion?
6.3 million, that seems like so much. I don't believe they were asking for that much before. I, looking at what the Getty Villa did in order to save their artifacts, the kind of landscaping, but 6.3 million seems incredibly high. I would wonder, what their fire rating is right now. So,
and I can ask them that question if,
well, I mean, I just think I think they're asking for, if they, do you ask for way more than you want, or do you ask for what you really need? And what has a greater opportunity to be funded? It's just like the ask by, the Redmond Airport asked for 10 million. The Eugene Airport asked for 13 million. Eugene got 0 and we got the 10. So I'm not quite sure why they're asking for so much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
No,
and I'll vote yes also. So
okay, I'll amend the
Two
letter
signatures.
just to have the 2 signatures. And we'll circulate that probably shortly after this meeting. The application is due on Friday, so we'll try to get that over to them with the signed version this afternoon.
you,
Okay, next is the OSU Cascade State Funding Request. This came from Sherm from OSU Cascades requesting $42 million in state funding for land reclamation and the completion of the Student Health and Recreation Service, noting that there's going to be a $22 million match from the university, an additional $20 million paid by the students that the students voted to cover in additional fees to have these resources available. So it's basically it is a matching grant for what the university and the students are putting in, and they're asking for a matching grant amount from the state.
so this is Oregon State University Cascades campus, next big capital project. I know that, many years ago, it was the #1 priority of Central Oregon to have a 4-year university. I think that the logic of having, student fees in that large amount is, I struggle with that. And the fact that, students that are on campus right now for a couple of years have decided, well, in the next 20 years, whoever shows up's got another fees that we just approved. Big number, but
no, the fee's been there since 2017.
yeah, well, and that's the whole concept. I mean, people have been, yeah, as I say, I don't know that I would have supported that being a student or think that that's a revenue source, but they've been putting some money together. Any other thoughts? I'm just sharing. I mean, as I say, we love a university here. We heard about some of the research efforts at the EDCO meeting the other day. So a lot of good things happening there.
Yeah, I think it's been a real asset and benefit to our community to have a 4-year university here. This building is the next piece in the build out of the campus. So I'm supportive of sending this letter.
So they're saying that they're helping address the housing crisis, but it says it's the Student Health and Recreation Center. So what housing are they building with this 42 million?
I had to cut some of the language because the preference of the board is to get it to 1 page. So let me see if I have some additional context there.
I mean, yeah. In the letter, there's no, we're building another 1,000 apartments or something. I don't see anything.
So there is, I mean, I don't know if this funding is, okay. It does say for land reclamation. So there are both reclamation pieces and this specific building. The broader reclamation efforts are to make room for the next building as well, which I believe is going to have dormitory or housing as a part of it. There's definitely more student housing in the works for the university campus.
And the parts that I cut didn't have anything to do with that. I try to cut them, just
One pager.
additional language that's used and not any content, and there wasn't any content on that. Yeah, and they gave us the overview flyer, which was that flyer that we had on the table at the EDCO luncheon. So I'm just looking at that really quickly to see if that has any additional information about the housing aspect of it.
So it's actually an $84 million project if they get the 42 from the state. But when's the last time they gave universities that much money, and especially OSU Cascades? What's the history in their giving?
The way it's worked is Cascades campus has been they ask for these big chunks, and oftentimes they get pieces spread out over multiple years instead of getting it all at once. Last year they got nothing though. So
That's what I was thinking.
And I did see in their flyer, so it just said student apartment housing financed by OSU as part of the total packet of 84 million includes 39.5 million for the additional student apartment housing.
39 million?
39.5 million. Mhm.
How about just changing the word new to future in that last paragraph? Because it's setting the table for future housing by, remediating the land. Because that helps you understand, oh, okay, yeah, so this is setting the table.
Well, this is good if they're going to use half of it for student housing.
Or opening up the land for the future housing.
Yeah, that's right. They were supposed to be out at Juniper Ridge and then something
Yeah, so
happened.
let me read it in entirety so I'm not misrepresenting here. There's more work to be done to complete the remaining land reclamation and set the stage for a decade of future growth, including student apartment housing financed by OSU at $39.5 million, which will help ease housing challenges in Central Oregon and provide convenient access for continuing students. So you have all of the language for consideration.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'll make that change with the word new to future.
Thank you.
Is there a motion of support?
I'd be happy to make a motion, but Commissioner Dare wants to do that.
No, go ahead. I don't,
I'll move approval of a letter to the legislature in support of OSU Cascades request for 42 million in state funding for land reclamation and completion of the Student Health and Recreation Center.
second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you.
Great. One more letter for consideration. It was a late edition yesterday afternoon. Potentially Commissioner Dare has more information to provide from this, but this is for Mosaic Community Health for their Connors campus. They're asking for a community initiated project request in the amount of $4 million to support I believe the construction for the Connors campus. Yeah, it will develop the Connors campus in East Bend by the end of 2026.
Yes, it's really a small ask when you look at, I believe it's like a $40 million project, something like that, above 40 million. And, but it is a federal ask. So, Mosaic does a lot of good things. In fact, I thought it was an international company because there's Mosaic in Canada, but no, they're not. They're just a Central Oregon health center, the largest in the region.
I was able to meet with them yesterday also and learn more about it and understand the big picture. They have kind of a multifaceted funding plan put together. So this is just part of it. And the land is available and they've already have co-located housing opportunities with Housing Works on the parcels next to them.
Given the concerning news we're hearing from La Pine Community Health Center in in South County. I think we should be doing everything we can to support our federally qualified health centers right now. And this request goes right along with that. So I'm supportive as well.
Is there a motion?
Go ahead, Commissioner Chang.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to take turns, but
Not necessary.
move approval of a letter in support of a community initiated project funding request for Mosaic Community Health for their Connors campus.
A second.
This is in the amount of $4 million. As I say, they've got other revenue that they're putting together in a big package here. And federally qualified health clinic, talking to him yesterday, I learned that basically they're on a different cycle than Lapine Community Clinic. So that's why Lapine, they're coming to an end and a restart at the end of February, I think they said, and they're a whole year off. So that's why it looks so different right now for the two of them. Hopefully these investments that have been flowing well in our community are continued. So with that, any other discussion?
Well, I do want to say, I want to commend them because it's really it's maybe like a 10% ask or something. They've really put up all the funding from other sources. So congratulations on that.
Calling for the vote, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you.
Great. If you want to sign a clean copy up there, I can take that to save a little work on the back end.
Okay, I've
I'll
got
pick
one.
up those two at the end here. Right,
I've got another one.
filing them. Okay,
I
great.
got one more that came.
Oh, okay.
As I say, and this is just coming left and right now, but this is maybe the congressionally directed spending also. So Lapine Fire sent an email to me asking for fire ladder truck and wildfire engine. So two different letters. And as I said, I just got the email and I was able to print it out and bring it here today, but this is kind of that same scenario. So ladder truck in the amount of 1.5 million is my understanding. Yeah, I don't know why I don't see the number there, but I think it was in the email. And then
Pull it up too.
oh yeah, because I sent you a note. Yep. Wildfire engine also. So as I say, is that because I think an ambulance came already. So that's why they're like, hey, well, let's go ask for more now.
Yeah, it looks like they're asking for 1.6 for the 100-foot ladder truck and $550,000 for a wildland type 3 fire engine.
Yeah. And as I say, they've been successful with an ambulance in the past. And one new ambulance that, is run hard and heavy for a couple of years is, gets consumed pretty quick in that district because they're driving so far every time they go to the hospital. So as I say, any thoughts, Commissioner, about, I mean, this is going right to the senators again for their asks.
I feel like this particular district is is pursuing every federal funding opportunity all the time, and I'm not comfortable supporting every single one of those. I mean, as mentioned, the ambulance just came and they're turning around and making another request while there's a lot of other needs in the region. I kind of like to wait before making another putting support behind another request right away.
So do they need this ladder truck because of the community health center being that it's a 3-story building? Is that why they're asking for it?
Yeah, I was going
So it's kind of about after the fact, right?
well, yeah,
There isn't, they don't have anything that can actually serve that, how many millions is into that building? What is the cost of that building?
oh, I don't remember offhand.
You don't remember? I mean, it was a huge investment for that building. So, yeah, well, how far away is the 100-foot ladder truck? Is it in Bend? If they had a problem,
Sun River has.
they have a 100-foot ladder truck?
I don't know if it's 100 foot, but they have ladder. Hey, we could ask them I won't be there tomorrow, but you can ask them tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Sun River Resort is multi-story.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a 100-foot truck per se, because that's right. Well, and that's fine, as I say, I just received this. I wanted to get it turned around instead of,
When's the deadline on this?
like the end of the week.
I think they're.
Same thing, tomorrow maybe, or
I think they're all under the same deadline. It's all under these congressionally directed spending or the CIPs, I think they're called this year. I think I've heard a couple different deadlines, but I know the drop dead deadline for one of the ones we're working on is the 25th, but I've also heard the 21st. So within a week.
Okay.
So maybe, bring this for discussion tomorrow, see what Sun River's ladder truck looks like. And
Okay.
I'm kind of in the same spot, they're doing due diligence, filling out all the applications they can.
But then
I
the
mean,
question,
I'm more sympathetic now that they've actually, gone to their voters and asked for support. Before before that happened, I was kind of feeling like well, we're looking for the Fed or the state to bail us out because we're not financially solvent. But now that that measure passed, I think that this is this district is on better financial grounds, and is taking responsibility for its own investment needs. And I'm inclined to support things, but I just maybe not every.
no, I think I supported every Lapine thing that we did vote on the last couple of years because I know that community does need the support. I'm just wondering how many fire trucks do they actually have in usage right now? Do you know that, Commissioner DeBonne?
So they do have information here. The district, 3 engines, 2 from 2007, 1 from 2000, with flashover occurring in new construction. I guess I'm just trying to read what they have here.
So they have 3 engines right now. Okay. All right. Well, if you can bring it back and
I'm
just,
sorry, is there a specific
Oh, I
question?
see.
well, I want to actually read the letter, maybe talk to somebody about it and talk to the people in Sun River to see if there is a ladder truck there, but then how long would it take to get down to Lapine? Because that multi-million-dollar health center that they're, brought into the community, we don't really want it to burn
I'll
down.
send a note and say, ask Chief Halsey just to be there at the ribbon cutting tomorrow, the facility.
Yeah,
Okay.
and typically I'll ask the organization to submit a draft letter. This time they submitted 2 supporting documents, of which Commissioner DeBonne and I have been reading from.
Yeah.
So if you want me to request a draft letter from them, I can do that as well. Or if you want to discuss with them,
I'll send a note and
Tomorrow.
ask the chief to be there tomorrow at Sun River, and that can be a powwow real quick. And I won't be there because I'll be traveling to Salem. But let's do that.
And then possibly the board could then approve the letter Friday morning at the legislative meeting because that's a notice meeting, just.
If there's
and
support.
If we want to, if there's support, if we want to forward it to, and I'm sorry, I didn't get this to Commissioners Adair and Chang yesterday. I just forwarded it to you because all the information that you're asking about, we just don't have a draft letter at this time.
yeah, so I can respond after this meeting and ask them for a draft letter for your consideration if that's the route we want to go, and then get that to you by tomorrow evening and discuss it on Friday morning if that's the direction the board would like to go in.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll try. Yep. See if it turns around or not. Thank you very much.
I'm
Anything
still
else?
here. Yes.
Next? I don't even know
I
what's
think
next now.
This is my last one. So as a refresher, we've discussed in previous board meetings about engagement with the Central Oregon Legislative Delegation during the session. And I think where we landed with the commissioners was to have them come once a month for 30 minutes. We discussed this on Friday. So this Friday is our first 30-minute meeting with the delegation. So the way that schedule will work out, this is all public. It's on the meeting calendars already for the public as well. It'll be from 7:30 to 8. The legislatures have been invited to attend. There's an agenda that has been published as well. It's pretty similar to previous agendas with the legislative interactions, but 5-minute brief update from commissioners if there's anything to discuss. And then we're asking the legislatures who are on to provide, and during a 15-minute period, updates and briefing from the legislatures as a kind of similar format to what they did last year, what they're hearing on the ground, how the session's going, if they have any bills. And then we're allocating, given this timeline works, 10 minutes to discuss county priorities. So it's pretty tight. With that being said, this meeting is going to roll right into the 8 to 9 a.m. legislative update meeting. So, and it's the same Zoom call. So people don't have to log on and log off and log back in. So it'll be the same Zoom meeting. I think that's correct, Brenda, right? Yeah, so we'll just keep it the same. So if it bleeds into the next meeting, that is okay. So that's the agenda that's been published and sent. And I just wanted to touch base with you all on the potential priorities that you may want to discuss with the legislature. What we discussed a couple months ago when Doug was here was having 3 to 5 top bullet points of bills and or priorities that are hot right now for the county. That are, so Doug and I worked together this week to pick out the primarily priority one support positions that have already been taken by the commissioners in previous legislative update calls, aligning with what is happening in the legislature now. So Doug did add in several bullets on transportation that I took out because there's not immediate action for this week going on those. And those are all still kind of pending zones. And so I was trying to keep it focused to topics that are of relevance this week or, pretty quickly with the legislature, with the session and how that's shaping up and what we know of for bills. So with that, we were talking about, potentially talking about a bullet point for behavioral health, public health, which is behavioral health HB 2024 and 2056, which focuses on behavioral health workforce and community mental health programs. And then for public health, HB 5025, that public hearing is today. I believe it's at 1 p.m. today. We have submitted, via Tom Kuhn has submitted a couple different testimonies through 2 different avenues there as a priority one support for 5025. So I had that on there as it's really, a relevant topic this week for the legislatures. So I'll pause on the health services and my whole spiel to see if there's feedback on this process and then that initial topic.
So we have an agenda for a 30-minute window here. We'll see. So invitations have been sent out to legislators. Do we know who's coming or?
That's correct. I've had, so the invitation was sent out and it's the invite for once a month from now through June. And so I've had a couple legislatures accept that. That doesn't mean necessarily that they're guaranteed to come this Friday. But also I met with Doug yesterday and asked him just to kind of, ping some reminders in the halls of the Capitol this week as he's there to reach out. So I think it's, in his best interest to get, participation there as well.
Too, so I'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we don't know who's specific.
If anyone's coming, who's coming. We had a pretty decent showing last year.
Yeah, and
but
somebody will. Yeah, or they all will at the same time.
Yep. It was kind of sporadic of like who's popping in and when, but.
Yeah.
So I guess the question on the table is, are we good with how the agenda is? And then do we want to go through these priorities set out? And then also, I guess, kind of along those slide presentations that we discussed earlier, do you want to assign individual topics or do you, the chair wants to read or discuss the topics and have it be, usually these are typically an open communication forum, but just wanted to go if there was any specific process that you wanted us to moderate through this.
I guess I'd say everything that's on this list, I think are priorities for the county. I think that there are even additional priorities, which whether we bring them up depends on who shows up on Friday morning, right? It would probably be helpful to have a refresher on committee assignments. Kind of have that little cheat sheet in front of us. So
I can send that email. I think I sent the email at the beginning of the session, so I'll just refresh it so it's at the top of your email box on all of the Oregon Delegations Committee assignments. So
right. I mean,
I'll resend that.
If if Rep Crop shows up, we want to ask him about impacts grant funding. If other legislators show up, we want to ask them about water stuff. Or I would.
It depends on who shows up.
Yeah. So I mean, it's good to tell. I don't think any of our I don't think any of our delegation who has a piece, whose districts are, have a piece of Deschutes County are on the relevant health committees to be voting on. Well, maybe. I mean, like, Levy and Broadman are on Ways and Means. So, I mean, anything dealing with funding, they might or might not have a chance to weigh in on. But I do, while it's good for our legislators to understand what our priorities are, the things that they can do things about are really connected to their committee assignments. So it's, yeah, so maybe just having a cheat sheet, a refresher. Here's which committees these legislators sit on. And then when they pop in on at 7:30, we can, be prepared to talk to them about the relevant things.
And this sheet has not been published for agenda. It was just, we don't even need to use that. I have the committee assignments pulled up, so I'll pop that back up until your email. So that it's the top of the email, for refreshers on committee assignments. If there's, if you want supporting materials, we're happy to provide that. I just drafted this as a starting supporting materials for the meeting, but we could just go off of the agenda and the legislatures that show up too. So
Does our bill tracker, does it include which committee various bills are running through? I see Whitney nodding.
yes.
So, okay. So that, I mean, that could be a good prompt, like you put those two things together. I got a list of legislators with their committee assignments. You've got our bill tracker with relevant committees, and we can.
So I could pull priority 1 and priority 2 bills from Bill Tracker that the commissioners have taken a position on, and then match those up with any of our Central Oregon delegations as kind of a reference point of view, and attach that to the email that also has all of the Central Oregon delegations committee assignments. Would that be helpful?
Sure. But
If it's not, I don't need
that
to.
might
Yeah, I was
be-
just trying to.
that may be more work than you need to do. Just,
There's not that many. That wouldn't take super long.
you know what, like, if committees, if what committee a bill is connected to is a field in the bill tracker, you could just reprint the bill tracker like that. By committee, by committee, which are the bills that we're tracking. But then we could put that together with whoever shows up.
Okay, cross-reference. it
And
with
that-
the committee list. Yeah.
That should be, if that's a field, that should be really easy to do, right? I mean, I don't want to spend hours and hours on this.
I mean,
We
the
can
the
just-
way I pull bill tracker reports, it's limited. I think I can pull it that way. So if I can pull it that way, it will be really easy to do. If I can't pull it that way, I can't pull it that way. But if not, I could do it the other way. Again, there's not an enormous amount of priority 1 and priority 2 positions that have been taken by the commissioners in our bill tracker report right now. So it wouldn't take that much time to do cross-referencing.
You know what we're trying to do here.
I get the gist. Yeah. So I'll pull some sort of supporting document together as well as resending the committee list for the delegation for you guys to have on hand as a reference tool during this call on Friday. And if we happen not to have any legislatures show up, we could probably roll right into our legislative update meeting, I'm guessing. No? Yes? No? We'd have to wait till 8. Okay.
Because it's posted.
Yeah.
Well, and this will be practice making sure that, it's substantive half hour for legislators that do show up.
Yep.
So, I mean, that'll be the focus, because we're basically practicing, because right now is still the early session. It'll get more interesting as time goes on. So if we can practice working together, they can dial in for 5 minutes or 15 minutes, get some good information and move on. That'll be wonderful.
Okay.
Okay. Setting
That
up
is
for
it.
Friday morning. Okay. Thank you so much. other items, anything? Nick has something, okay.
I do, and it's up to Whitney if she wants to join me or not. But as you know, as the board is aware, we had our fair board recruitment, and we had a number of really great applicants for that. We have asked commissioners for your priorities on the appointments, and Whitney's here now, so I can just turn it right over to Whitney unless you'd like me to continue.
I got it.
Okay.
Commissioners, I asked you to let me know following the interviews that occurred Friday, what your sense was in terms of your individual top three candidates. And it appears that you're in alignment on those top three candidates. And so just wanted to connect with you and let you know that it appears that you would like to reappoint the three existing Fair Board members to the Fair Board, and that's Aaron Curtis, Steve Curley, and Bill Kuhn. So just wanted to bring that to you for any discussion that you'd like to have, and then staff will coordinate to get letters of appointment on a future board agenda.
Great. Well, thank you very much. So we did do our interviews across this organization, another half a dozen people interviewed. It was wonderful talking. Man, it's exciting being able to talk about what's out there, what it is, where's it going to go in the future, how to get motivated to come be on this board. So I want to thank everybody that got involved in that process.
Yeah, we interviewed great candidates. I hope that Fair and Expo, the Fair and Expo organization can encourage or invite the folks who weren't selected to serve on the Fair and Expo board to plug in other ways. Is there a budget committee? Is there, a committee on X that each of those candidates could, find a place to get more engaged with Fair and Expo on?
Actually, it's the association. So, and one of them already is on the association, and it, that's a great group of Deschutes County residents that are, and even some people that aren't in Deschutes County that come in and help support the fair. So, hopefully, yes. Will you be calling them to let them know that didn't make or is somebody going to be notifying them?
Out personally and thank them for their time and extend that offer to, serve in other capacities associated with Fair and Expo. So between Jeff and I will coordinate on kind of who does that outreach, but we'll make sure that it happens.
Okay.
Great. So we're all in alignment with that. Sounds like we support it. So a future board meeting, and then basically they are have been previously board members, because I know there's a meeting coming up pretty quick, and they'll want to be notified so they can attend, even if we don't finish the paperwork before then.
We will get that process moving. Thank you, commissioners.
Great. Thank you. And I'm glad we went through that process. Anything else, Nick?
Nothing else from me.
So a couple thoughts. Eastern Oregon Counties Association, there was a video call I attended, which we could all be involved in. There's another one like on the 26th, 27th of February coming up. I'll be flying to DC on that day. So as I say, we can publish it if there's going to be more than one commissioner there, and if anybody's available for that call. Just sharing. What about the Tuesday morning calls, Commissioner? Have you been dialing in on those?
I have.
Okay. Any status or update or
I
information?
didn't do the one this week because I was thinking like, oh, we were going to both be on it. But of course, we're the only county that only is allowed to have one commissioner on the call. So
Well,
I did miss
it's a
that one.
legislative call that it's for the.
Well, it's
Yeah,
very-
you haven't called in at all, knowing that you've been doing, and we hadn't talked about it in weeks either. So.
No, we hadn't. So yeah, no, the calls have been great. I did miss this week's, but prior ones were good. The prior week, they had someone from ODF, Oregon Forestry, and kind of took everyone's sails out because they said, you're not going to do anything to change your map designation. So it was pretty quiet when I got on like a minute or two late, and that's what I heard. So anyhow, and then you saw what that did. So
Okay.
we're proceeding.
Well, and it sounds like there's more legislative participation, from Central Oregon folks too. I mean, who else been attending from legislative?
Almost everyone. Pretty good. So yeah, I would say maybe eight legislators.
So as I say, I mean, if you want to get involved with that, we can do that.
I continue to feel that us being a pretty large Central Oregon county, we just don't have that much overlap of I mean, there's overlapping concerns, but there's just the way that a county of our size, population, and you know, our geographic location, I just don't feel like we fit you know, in that it's, you know, it's primarily very rural, very small population counties, and it, you know, they're looking at things in really different ways than say I would. So
I find that so fascinating because I used to live in LA County with over 10 million people, biggest county in the nation. I can't believe that's where I live.
10
Where
million. There's only 4.2 in the state of Oregon.
I know it was over 10 million and it's in LA County. And I was just listening the other day and they said it was the largest one in the state. And so when I look at Deschutes County with our 210,000, I go like, okay, let's talk about a contrast. And do I feel a real affinity to this side of the mountain? Yes, I do. If the Cascadia ever happens, we're going to get even closer over here. And the fact that Klamath is on it, Wasco is on it, Jefferson's on the call, you know, almost all Eastern Oregon counties, 18,
But
other than Hood River. I mean, they're all on the call and they're usually it's incredibly informative. And Gina does the report too, so that's great to hear.
has Emerson Levy or Anthony Brodman joined?
Emerson has been on the call. Yes.
So that's where I was referring. to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's-
Emerson's, well, there's two Levy's, so we have to,
talk to, you know, our legislators, you know,
That's fine.
You're
Yeah,
on.
no, that's good. I'm just,
we're on our legislative update meetings. And I mean, we are, you know, Deschutes County is a member of AOC. I find AOC an appropriate place to engage with other counties.
oh, and I did find out that the High Desert Museum is rated moderate. So how did they get moderate? And I got
well, they've
hot.
done fuel reduction and prescribed burns around their facility, remember? I mean,
Okay.
they've done the whole.
And so they still need 6.3 million.
In the broader area around the museum.
So I am going to drive to Salem this afternoon, testimony for 3084, which is Representative Emerson Levy's bill for Core 3. So there's going to be a group of people. I'll be there with the mayor of Redmond, a couple councilors. Tomorrow morning, there's going to be a open house at one of the hearing rooms in the House side for legislators to come learn about Core 3, and then the testimonies at 1 o'clock tomorrow. And then also Core 3 has got an opportunity to travel to Colorado because they have like 3 of these type settings in the Denver area. So to fly into Denver, we could possibly go see 2 public safety training facilities that have meeting room, training building, pursuit track, and whatever else facility. So I'm looking for the date here. I can't seem to find it right now, but it's like next month sometime. So I may be doing that, or if anybody else really wants to do that, you could do that also, or representing Deschutes proper. Police chief, fire chief, there'll be a few people going.
I have no problem with you going to that to represent Deschutes County.
Be a simple flight from Redmond to Denver, I think, because then it'll be easy.
It could be simple and then again, it could,
Well, no, it could be a disaster, but I mean, it's one,
it could be very simple.
yeah,
Yes.
no stop, direct flight. Anything else?
Nope.
Yesterday morning, the Deschutes Cultural Coalition met, you know, the board met to review applications for the year. There was about $42,000 of grant awards recommended across. I won't remember exactly how many applications there were, but probably, you know, 20 applicants. So pretty small grants. The Cultural Coalition board was very appreciative of the $15,000 that Deschutes County is contributing to match, or, you know, partially match the amount that comes through the Oregon Cultural Trust on an annual basis, so that they can have a grant program.
But it was finalized. Or
The group made recommendations.
Yeah.
But
where does
I-
that go now?
It may, there may need to be a check back with the Oregon Cultural Trust
Yeah.
on that, but otherwise, I think that the recommendations will stand. So there was that.
Was it, I'm sorry, one more. So was it funded? I'm sure there was more asked than there were.
There was
Yeah.
about $103,000 of asks and we had 40.
So they got to that
Yeah, so it was
total
about
number. that was
40%.
available.
It's
Okay.
about 40,
That's
you know,
helpful.
funded,
Great.
you know, funded about 40% of the request.
And I was able to attend the check ceremonies last year, just to, and I was notified about it. So
Yep.
really appreciate a lot of, diversity of all kinds of
Yep.
arts and culture.
Yep. A lot of great projects. And you know, if anyone wants to see the packet, I could share it through staff or something like that. The one other meeting I'll mention, I attended the Central Oregon Area Commission on Transportation meeting primarily with my OTC hat on. I wasn't there as a county commissioner. But there was a lot of good discussion of things happening in the region, needs, upcoming projects. At the end of that meeting, there was, the Commissioner Taylor from Jefferson County expressed substantial concerns about underinvestment in the Highway 97 corridor, which, I was listening to as Oregon Transportation Commissioner. But then, I mean, he really kind of seems to see it as, Deschutes County is stealing the money so that they're not getting any. And I guess pointing to, things like the Highway 97 corridor project in North Highway 97 corridor project in Bend and the project in South Redmond on 97. So I tried to, again, I wasn't there with my county commissioner hat on, but, as an Oregon Transportation Commissioner, I tried to make it clear to him that the way that funds get allocated out is through the legislature, and it's not haggling with Deschutes County, but I think it's actually important for us to reemphasize the ways that state funding are allocated to our neighbors so that they don't think we're stealing money from them. And I think it'd be also valuable to go back and reemphasize. I mentioned this to Chris Doty as we were walking out of the meeting, just to go back and reemphasize to them, hey, that roundabout, for Crooked River Ranch that, basically serves Jefferson County residents, we're footing the bill for that. So that just things like that, so that it's, they have a better sense of the equity of the situation.
So that was the Central Oregon Area Commission on Transportation, COACT.
Yeah.
And was Commissioner Dare, were you there?
I was
Yeah,
elected
okay, so
chair.
You're there. Yeah, okay.
So, yeah,
You're running the meeting.
yes,
Great. Okay, good. Thank you.
I nominated someone else, actually, Commissioner Taylor. I'm really glad he's joined the group, and I can totally confer with the problems with Highway 97 as many millions of times as I drive north on 97 and how dangerous it is from Redmond to Madras. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and somehow it still hasn't been happening. But I think with his leadership, it will be great. I do have a question. Tomorrow, are you going to the Managed Camp meeting for Redmond tomorrow, Commissioner Chang? Because it's on my calendar and I never know who's going.
I attended the one in either late January or early February. So I think it's your turn.
So that's my turn tomorrow? Okay. All right. I just wanted to know because of course, it's the same time as the Sisters Makers. So we'll.
I think you got the one in the beginning of January, and then again, I'm not remembering whether it was late February.
I don't think I went to one in January. Did I go to one in December? Okay, I'll go back on my calendar.
Today's the 19th of February.
Yes. Well, they're kind of random.
They were doing them every 3 weeks, so
That's
it's hard to predict.
I was
Okay.
able to attend the Ready Board meeting this morning, so that was virtual. So the first 45 minutes, just like you've done in the past. So I was able to dial into that one for the first time today.
Oh, and I did go to the Fireways meeting yesterday, though I've given that appointment to you. Just because I had information about the LA fires and really what happened to my friends and what more people need to do. Apparently someone is really working on some houses that are being built in Bend that clearly don't seem to have enough fire-wise designation. So there's some really good people at that meeting. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. And then someone else was really concerned with Lapine. So you can bring clarity to the group on Lapine and the fact that the city was designated high risk, the entire city. So it was brought up at the meeting.
Okay, anything else?
And looking towards next week, I'm not planning to be here for the Wednesday board meeting because of the EDCO strategic planning session. That's going to be my last EDCO function.
So that's the 26th. Okay. But I'll be coming in from a high school event first thing in the morning. So yeah, maybe next Wednesday is it like an all day thing for Edco?
No, it only goes till about 12 or 12:30, so I could come back in the afternoon, but
And we have Lapine meeting that night.
what's kind of on the radar for the agenda next week is that I think there was only one. When I asked Brenda, she said that she was only tracking one action item.
Okay.
On
The ordinance, current objective.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm good with. I can go back and watch the courthouse update
That's fine.
at a later date.
Okay.
Commissioner Bowman, if you prefer to meet at 10, just given your schedule in the morning.
Well, I was thinking 1 o'clock maybe too, but I mean,
I can be here for 1 o'clock.
yeah, I mean, 1 o'clock might fall right into place. Any thoughts, Commissioner? I mean,
Sure.
next Wednesday. Yeah, so we might do that. We'll publish it so everybody understands. Okay, anything else for the regular meeting? Seeing none, we do have executive session.
The Deschutes County Board of Commissioners will now convene an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660. Specific authorization for the executive session is ORS 192.660 subsection 2H and 2D, which allows the board to meet in order to discuss litigation and labor negotiations. Designated staff and the media are allowed to remain during the executive session. However, the media may only report that the board met in executive session and the identified basis for meeting in executive session. Recording devices are not permitted. No final decisions will be made, and at the conclusion, we will open the doors and invite the audience back into the meeting.
So let's just take a few moment break so we can stand up, but we'll be in the executive session momentarily.
Yeah.
Okay, at this time, we'll be out of our executive session. Is there anything else for this meeting today? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I think they forgot to tell us this was good.
Straight up.